If you would just like to give us a quick sort of synopsis of what you do, what your plans are, and essentially what your desire to do in the next year is.
I'll just give a brief introduction, rather start in what we do and what particularly our company does. We are into sports management and also into esports sector. We firmly believe that both sectors are pretty similar in terms of the idea of the league system. So I'm Towqeer. I'm based in Dubai. I'm actually from India, and so we just recently signed a pretty good deal with Dominance MMA, which is one of the actually the biggest MMA management company in the world, which has almost all of the particular athletes of theirs in one of the major leagues, including UFC, Bellator, PFL, One Championship, and names go on and on. So part of that deal includes basically we have just signed exclusive rights of bringing Khabib, Islam, and all the other particular athletes to the Indian subcontinent.
I want to try and say it as honestly as possible without coming across as offensive, but India's not really known for its MMA. It's better known for cricket, football, especially growing up. Kids in India, they play cricket, football, and hockey for the most part. What are your hopes in terms of growing MMA into and sort of India and growing that into what do you hope to do differently that hasn't already been done?
I mean, I agree to that. I mean, there is nothing to be offensive about the fact what the facts are facts. I think, like, yes, India prior, like, I think overall UFC is also not something as an old sport. It's pretty new to the mainstream media, where the Western audience has been exposed to this particular segment of the sports way earlier than the South Asian region. That includes even China or all the other regions. But I remember that. But what I feel is like since last 2 years, or 3 years, I'll say rather, the growth of the MMA, culture in India has been growing substantially. We have seen multiple big leagues and big names getting involved into it. I mean, I can say that the torch was actually lit by SFL in the beginning, which was owned, I think, at that time by one of the big stars in India called Sanjay Dutt. It did pretty well. We had a lot of international athletes who came over to fight in India. But however, the structure kept getting advanced and advanced, and we know that UFC kept setting those standards so high that it was very difficult to catch up with those. But now, since last 2 to 3 years, we have seen a great awareness in the audience in the Indian MMA culture, like what AI MMA is doing, what MFN has been doing. MFN has conducted one of Matrix Fight Night. They conducted around 3 to 4 shows based here in Dubai. With a huge success. I think the biggest part was we have wrestlers, we have Olympic champions. We have, if you go to any particular state in India, like northern side in Punjab or in Haryana, you'll see wrestling is a part of culture, like you see in the regions of Pakistan or anywhere else. Kids grow up into the mud fields and learning mud wrestling and everything. But I think slowly what we need mainly is that there wasn't an infrastructure. But now more and more it's getting privatized. There is better infrastructure for the fighters. Like before, you had to rely on a lot of the government created facilities, but now you have a lot of privatized entities there, MFN, as I mentioned, or there are AKA Gym has come to India, seeing that particular potential 1 year back. So we do feel that as much as the infrastructure is being privatized, we are seeing a more and more growth of MMA in India at a very large scale, rather. We luckily have actually one athlete who is actually fighting into road to UFC. It's the first time that India has participated in that, and the first time we are in the finals. Anshul Jubli. We hope that Anshul gets the contract, and we'll get the rest of the guys there as well.
So, I mean, India is quite a large country as well. Do you feel as though you're going to be growing a whole new crop of talent and helping to usher in a new generation of potentially world champions from India. I mean, put it this way, from a smaller country like the Philippines, for example, you have less people and less opportunities for them to get that way. In India, you've got more people, so you're more likely to find world champions. Do you feel like you could do that within the next couple of years, or what's your growth plans?
That is the actual plan. One of the reasons that we wanted guys like Khabib, Islam, Gaethje, Kamaru Usman, all of these guys, they're one of the, everybody in India knows them. Whosoever loves the sport, watches the sport, or whosoever is rather a fan of Khabib or Islam, or not a fan of the sport, but they're the fan of the personality. So our target is very simple: that nurture and help and support as many MMA athletes in India as much as we can through basically these particular kind of partnerships that we have created. We do see India as a market when we look at the number of fighters compared to the population size ratio. We have personally trying to scout a lot of athletes, and the numbers are very, very, very good. So given a timeline of 2 years, I do feel 2 to 3 years we will have some very recognizable faces in the international level, whether it's UFC, whether it's Bellator, or any particular other EFC or any organization. We'll have some very known faces. One championship last year, we had one Indian origin, Buller Singh, who was the champion there for the heavyweight. We now have all we need 2 to 3 stars, right infrastructure support for them, and media, obviously, like you guys, who play a massive role in that, because no star is a star unless the media isn't it's not hyped up by the media. Media doesn't showcase their skills. So yeah, even including the media side, you have seen a massive growth in the MMA media and in the subcontinent. So we have Sportskeeda that came into the picture. We have multiple other Locker Room India, which has come into the picture. Many more other names have come in, and so yeah, our hopes are pretty high. We just want to create that awareness in the audience that you can have. This is a sport where you can achieve that kind of a stardom and success as well. But I don't doubt the skill set that any particular Indian wrestler, fighter has out there, be it it's a mud wrestler or mat wrestler. Definitely no doubt about this.
How do you hope that bringing sort of Islam and Khabib in, how do you hope that that will replicate success for Indian fighters?
It should. See, there are a lot of all the MMA organization, or anyone who is doing any sort of mixed martial art, already knows these particular guys, right? So it'll be kind of a personal experience to inspire those guys or audience on a larger scale to actually come and be a part of the sport and think in the same way. We want to pick up the right advocates for the sport, and I don't think anybody is better than Khabib. With the kind of a legacy he has, and we don't think anybody is better at the moment than Islam, being an active sports person. There are endless guys who have who bring that kind of value to the sport in a very positive way. We want people to actually attract from that as much as they can. So if we set up the right example, if we given the idea that there is already infrastructure available there for people to take benefits from it, we are more than happy. I'm pretty confident that it's going to put a very positive impact on the sport overall. Be it, we have seen cricketers who are massive fans of Khabib. We know Bollywood actors who are massive fans of these guys. But we will try and coordinate with as many as we can to spread the message as much as we can. So, but yeah, so far it will be the biggest thing happening from the MMA side into India.
There are obviously huge names from UFC, which we would say is the leading MMA organization. In terms of Asia, you can't ignore one championship from Singapore. Do you feel as though maybe you should look towards one as that promotion to sort of usher talent towards and encourage there, because it is the leading organization in Asia?
Absolutely. I mean, like in South, like one championship is pretty much dominating it in Southeast Asia. The numbers are fantastic. Even one of the dominance MMA fighter itself, Sayed, recently won a belt. Like he had an incredible success there. We have many of the fighters that are coming up towards. It doesn't matter that where the fighter wants to go, where he gets the opportunity. Our primary focus as sports management and something that we are trying to do is that we want to make sure that maximum light is being shed on the sport itself. Later on, it's about the organization structure is different. They get a chance and opportunity in Bellator, they can make their name there. They want to go into UFC, they can make their name there. I mean, if our sponsors support the idea of even bringing athletes who are fighting in the ONE FC, we can bring any particular athlete there. But goal is simple, that we use the best names, represent the sport in the best manner that we can, and honorable manner that we can.
Yeah, I mean that segues perfectly into my next question. Obviously, Islam, Habib. Are there any other major names that you've looked towards and gone, I'd like to get you involved? Perhaps even Conor McGregor?
I mean, those two names can't be in the same conversation. I mean, like they're always in the same conversation. But as I said, to be honest, we personally feel that we want to bring the right advocates because I believe that in India, any particular sport or any particular victory is related more towards honor, more towards being respectful, more towards giving the right kind of, you can say, angle to the sport. But I mean, I don't think that currently Connor is that active, or like I don't know, last 8 years he hasn't really fought. So, and he might have other business goals, but this is specifically for a partnership is specifically with Dominance MMA. So we will be more and more working on that. And I'm a massive Habib fan. I mean, way beyond.
Talking about a recent acquisition, sort of, and especially in terms of inspirations, the controversial Jake Paul just signed for PFL and
PFL, yeah.
just confirmed to be competing in MMA. Does that do you feel that could be used as a beacon towards young Indian talent? That you say, look, at the end of the day, he was a YouTuber, he was a YouTube personality, and now he's literally broken his way into the world of combat sports. He's kicked the door down, and he's one of the most marketable fighters in the world today. Do you feel as though you can use his model as an inspiration?
I think yes. One of the benefits of these particular celebrities coming into, whether it's a YouTuber or any other celebrity that's coming into it, it broadens the viewership overall, right? It sheds more and more light on the sport. I mean, like even in the Indian market, if we look at a lot of these content creators who are out there pushing content, have massive conversion and who have massive viewerships, where kids and young youth audience, they follow them like religiously. One of the parts of our particular strategy as to actually integrate them into the promotion of these such events. We have in India itself, like if we take like any of the biggest content creators, they already know the names, and they want actually to promote that particular sport. And that's why we even created one of our other partnerships regarding the same structure with Trinity Gaming, who has one of the biggest content creators in subcontinent. And we wanna make sure that we don't only do it the conventional way, we do it the youth way. So we want people to basically, as many as young generation to come and see it. But our prime focus is not TV. We are actually planning to promote this whole thing to the younger audience and make sure that the youth sees it before anyone else.
That's great. Sticking on the subject of UFC and sort of circling back to Islam a little bit. Obviously, he's got a massive fight, Volkanovski, coming up. What's your predictions for it?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely Islam. If people say I wouldn't be that biased because Islam has been. I'm not being biased because I'm a fan of Islam and we're working with them. But what I see as one of the major reasons is that it's not easy for someone to readjust into different weight categories. If Islam would have gone one weight class up and he would have been fighting, I don't know, Leon Edwards or anyone, then maybe I'll be like, bad. It's a different thing. Your body functions different. Your cardio functions different. You're a different person towards the end of the rounds. So Islam has, I think, like all the major advantages in this, and one of the reasons that why, Habib is also now in the talks of being coach of the year is because the way he perceives the whole thing. Right after finishing the match, he didn't look for a money fight. He didn't look for anything. He was just simply focused on getting that greatness and challenging Alexander Volkanovski, who was in Abu Dhabi itself. So I do feel Islam will dominate him on the ground and he will finish him.
Yeah.
If not second, third round is my prediction.
Who do you feel in? Do you feel like there's anyone in UFC that could potentially give Islam a run for his money?
Um, I think Beneil Dariush, I mean, after this, is a very tough opponent, and even I would say that definitely Alexander Volkanovski is going to be way tougher fight than Charles Oliveira, considering that the sheer power that Alexander Volkanovski holds at 145 pounds. Like the guy is a huge dude, so he might be short, but he's pretty big for 145 even. But for now, I think Alexander Volkanovski is the biggest challenge. After that, I do see Beneil Dariush as someone that who might potentially be another big challenge. As Khabib said also recently in his interview, maybe five to six defenses, and maybe move up one weight class up, and God knows, maybe get two division champion. I mean, like, it will be crazy to think that he beats Alexander Volkanovski, 145 champion. This is my fantasy world, right? So moves up one weight class, beats Leon Edwards, comes back down into lightweight, beats three different champions. That's his Mount Rushmore moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, 100%, it's going to be a heck of a fight. But right now, I do feel Alexander Volkanovski is the biggest challenge that he's going to be facing.
Whilst we talk on the subject of fantasy, Habib, any chance you reckon he comes back? It's 29 and 0 is kind of a horrible number. We saw Floyd come back and do a boxing match to make it a solid number. Do you think he does the same, 30 and 0?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a different thing for Habib. He's definitely not coming back because if he has, for them, their word means everything. If they give you their word, they will stick to it no matter what. And he has given his word to his mother. So I don't think that's going to happen. And I mean, right now he even moves around. I think like 190 guys. So I doubt that's going to happen. But yeah, I mean, asking about my particular wish, I mean, I would want to watch him fight. Definitely George St. Pierre once, but I don't think that's going to ever happen. Both of them, I mean, like the way he retired is phenomenal. I mean, retiring at peak has got him more success, post his retirement than he was in the cage while he was actively fighting.
I guess you say, yeah, he stuck to his word. But if he was to come back, what would you reckon he would do? And what do you reckon who do you reckon he would face? Like, have you not had those conversations where he's gone, I would really
GSP
like to
for
fight
sure.
this person?
Catchweight GSP. Of course, he's not going to fight Islam, right? So, but catchweight GSP. And it's a fantasy thing, right? So I'm not saying it can happen, but it's fantasy. For me, in the fantasy world, 160, maybe they fight 165.
Yeah.
Only if that happens. Which is 100%, I'm telling you, not going to happen.
Oh, okay. It's always worth the try, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we'll circle back to what we originally said. We kind of got into the fantasy tangent a little bit. Do you feel as though any Indian prospects that you've seen, do you feel as though they stand a legitimate chance of capturing gold in the UFC itself, perhaps even Islam, dare I say?
I mean, I know Anshul for sure. Anshul Jubli is definitely doing remarkable work. I hope he wins his finals. He's basically, I do see him going very far in the sport, but there are a lot of other guys who are coming after Anshul. We just need one particular person to open those doors, and the whole game is going to change. Definitely going to change.
Have you had conversations with him? What's his prize fight? What's the fight that he's aiming for next?
I think he's fighting in a month or two. He trains at Soma Fight Club. Pretty good guy, very focused, very dedicated. I think if he gets the UFC contract, I do see him getting a chance because UFC has been wanting that for so long. I do see him getting a chance at somewhere in the 15 to 20 at first, and pretty quickly at top 15.
I mean, do you feel like obviously you look at Khabib, you look at Islam, they're on the more technical side, but then UFC definitely likes its showmen. Paddy Pimblett, Conor McGregor has said. Do you feel as though he can contend with the showman?
Guy can talk. Oh yeah, the guy. I mean, like his second fight, he went pretty viral in Indian media after he was like, "Namaste India, Namaste UFC, India is here." That kind of became the pretty famous cash line, and definitely he can talk. He's a pretty good showman, and he will have 1.4 billion people after him. And India is basically the hub for it will provide him all the opportunities to become the star that he wants to. I wouldn't be surprised if he breaks all the highest numbers in the global social media following, or like in terms of catching the fame. The only thing, I mean, Sony is doing fantastic work right now as well. They are trying pretty hard to get to show UFC and broadcast UFC at the same time. So we do expect him to be a pretty big name, definitely.
Is there not a concern that pressure could potentially swing the other way and break him?
Not really. I don't think that's going to happen. I have known him pretty close. He's a pretty calm, cool, and composed person. One step at a time. There are, I mean, like he knows what he's doing. He has the right team by his side. He has the right coaching by his side. I know his coach. I know other guys that he's training with. He's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean,
so obviously it means, like, look, nobody came into the sport and became like Khabib's level, or even Khabib didn't come in the first fight and he didn't look. If you look at the Khabib at the peak and Khabib when he came, these are two different guys, right? But obviously he will get more and more experience, more and more support, infrastructure support, and we see it growing in that way. As I said, that one of the reasons to bring these massive stars to India in the coming future is the purpose is to ignite that whole spark around the whole country that, hey, we can do this too, right? So I do see that happening.
I mean, when you look at Khabib, he's the perfect example of he was a great champion from start to finish. Do you feel as though, I mean, do you feel as though he will follow that example if he does become a champion? Or again, you look at guys like Conor McGregor, John Jones, they didn't seem to handle being a champion very well. Do you feel that's a concern?
See, it's pure discipline. I mean, it depends on how well you groom yourself and the people that you surround yourself with. If you look at the in-depth of these guys, like some of the biggest names like Khabib himself, you see his surroundings. It's all about grinding all day, all night, right? So they talk the sport, they eat the sport, they sleep that same sport. Like for them, it's everything, and it also comes from the faith, right? So the faith gives them that discipline that they don't drink, they don't party, they don't do anything that can harm them physically or affect their health or their discipline. Yeah. So we do see that as a major part of who they have become. The thing is that same thing that you reach the top, you see that money, and then eventually it turns you into a pretty different person. But I won't keep John Jones still out of the picture. Look, that's John Jones. He's the greatest of all time. I mean, like, no doubt about that. I mean, like, he's as said by the great Abdul Manap Nurmagomedov that he's God's gift, right? So, but I hope that he comes back the way he's supposed to. So I don't think we can put John Jones and Conor McGregor in the same category. Conor did his thing back then, but he hasn't been like last 6 years, 7 years. We haven't seen the same person, right? So yeah, I mean, whatever is good for the sport, we hope that those guys do the best for it.
I mean, I'll just conclude with sort of what are your plans for the for 2023? Like, what do you want, and when can we expect to see Khabib and Islam in India?
So it will be most probably right after Ramadan. We are working on a few things at the moment, looking for right partners. We are mainly focusing at a two-city tour. We want to do Mumbai, and we also want to do something in Delhi, considering they are one of the hottest places for such events. Um, but yeah, it depends on the schedule. You always have to be like understanding in a way that Khabib is not only about himself and Islam. They have like 15, 20 guys who fight on and off all time. That's why they're always in the training camps. So, but we were trying initially, I think, like, before, after the Volkanovski fight and before Ramadan, that still is our first priority, but most probably it's going to be right after Ramadan.
I mean, perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.